Good afternoon to everyone. We're so happy to see everyone. We're going to give everyone just a minute or so to get into the Zoom room before we get started. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining us today. Region 10 and Partners Resource Network are happy to welcome you today to our family webinar for November. Today's topic is Texas Medicaid Waivers 101, and we have Ashley Hart with us today from LifePath Systems. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to her to start sharing. I do think we will have a few minutes at the end of today's webinar for questions. So if you do have a question, you are welcome to put that into the Q&A box or into the chat, and we will be able to take a little bit of time at the end of today's webinar. Okay, Ashley, all you.
Hey, thank you. Thank you very much for having me today. My name is Ashley Hart, and I'm with LifePath Systems, and we are the local authority for Collin County for the IDD, Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Services. And so today I'm going to speak with you about Medicaid waiver programs and try to kind of give you an overview of the different ones that are there in Texas, different waiver services that are in Texas, and how to access those and what kind of information, what kind of services you can get. Kind of a disclaimer, they can be very confusing. So please, if you have any questions, be more than happy to try to answer those for you. All right, so our mission, our next slide, LifePath Systems mission is to serve individuals and family impacted by behavioral health, intellectual, or developmental challenges resulting in stronger communities. So LifePath does have a behavioral health side as well, and ECI, early childhood intervention. But I do work again for the intellectual and developmental disabilities. So LifePath Systems IDD front door services. So this is where you would start an initial call, which will, if you're in Collin County, will start with me. And at the end of this webinar, end of this presentation, I can also give you information for other contact informations for other local authorities or LIDAs. Dallas County has MetroCare. Denton County MHMR, there's different ones. Each county has their own LIDA, our local authority. So initial call, you would talk to me in Collin County. At that time, we're going to get a little information, collect demographic. We're going to do some screening for eligibility for services, interest list screening. You will hear me talk about the interest list. And we'll get into more detail about those as we go along. But the interest list is HCS, Texas Home Living. Those are the ones that LifePath works with or oversees. And then there's a few others, CLASS and MDCP. During this initial call, we review the services that we can offer through LifePath right now, there's a couple now, as well as getting on the list. And also you notice that there's an interest list check-in biannually. We will call every couple of years for those that are on the interest list to keep that updated and make sure we keep information with you, keep our information updated, as those wait lists are very long. So the next screen, the LifePath IDD services. So for non-waiver, there's waiver and non-waiver. Waiver are the HCS and Texas Home Living that we'll get into in just a little bit. The non-waiver, general revenue, and that's for individuals and families who need and want services where we have funding that allows. The screening for this is done at that initial phone call that we just talked about. And part of that phone call too, where we said we collect demographics and information, it's kind of a triage for eligibility. We're going to check on Medicaid status. If it's a crisis situation, I can refer you to a crisis team that we have to get immediate respite or immediate services for a crisis. We will also talk about and add an individual to those HCS and Texas Home Living, those waiver programs that are averaging about right now a 17-year wait time. Through the non-waiver, which is GR, there is funding for a service coordinator, which is kind of like a case manager for someone to link you to resources to advocate. They can attend meetings with you, just be an advocate for individuals. There's also some funding for respite and funding for day hab when an individual transitions out of school. We also do have a supported employment division here at LifePath, and that would actually start with Texas Workforce. And you start there, and then we are a provider for a job coach through Texas Workforce. So the next one, what is a Medicaid waiver program? Now, this is what you may have heard about as far as those long lists. If you've heard people say you just need to call and get on the list. This is what they're talking about, the Medicaid waiver programs. So waivers allow states to use Medicaid funds for long-term home and community-based services for people with disabilities or special health care needs in order to help them live in their community. Individuals that receive waiver long-term services and supports receive full Medicaid healthcare benefits. Examples of waiver services and some of the things offered are personal care, community supports, respite, nursing, minor home modifications, HCS, which is Home and Community Services. It's the only waiver program that has funding for a group home or host home, and that's through HCS. So what's super important is to get on these waiting lists. Oh, again, they have funding for PT, OT, speech, and behavioral therapy. But what is super important is to get on these lists as soon as possible. Again, they're averaging about 17 years. There's a little over 100,000 people waiting for services through these waiver programs. You don't have to prove or have your disability to get on the list or have Medicaid to get on this list. Anyone can get on the list for services. And the next slide is a little bit about the Medicaid waiver programs. There's the Home and Community-Based Services, HCS, which is through LifePath. Texas Home Living, which again is through LifePath. The Youth Empowerment, the YES program, that is a behavioral health service that is not through IDD, but it is for adolescents through the behavioral health. There's also CLASS, Community Living Assistance and Support Services. And there's the contact number for that one. The Deaf, Blind, and Multiple Disabilities, MDCP, which is the Medically Dependent Children's Program, and the STAR Plus waiver. And there you'll have those contact numbers for those waiver programs. Again, the HCS and Texas Home Living go through your local authority, again, which for Collin County is LifePath, And then Dallas is Metro Care Services. And I've got the numbers, I think, on the end of a slide that I can get as we move through this, the last page of that. There is one other program that, in addition to the waiver and the non-waiver programs, there's a program called Community First Choice. It is a Medicaid entitlement program for individuals that have an IQ of 69 or below, or an IQ of 75 or below with a related condition. This program is a little bit different in that it's an entitlement program, and there's not a waiting list for this service, for this program. And again, when you call into for that first initial phone call, that's where we kind of go over all of these programs in great detail, what works for you, what works for your individual, and how we might be able to help serve you guys on that. The Community First, it offers funding for personal care and independent living skills and someone can come in and work with an individual. Back up a little bit for the HCS and Texas Home Living, as far as eligibility requirements for those programs, that is an IQ of 69 or below, or an IQ of 75 or below with a related condition. And again, you don't have to go through any of the eligibility testing to qualify for those, to get on the list. It's just a matter of getting on the list. The eligibility requirements and the eligibility process will happen once you are enrolled in the program and your name comes up, and we go through the eligibility process at that point. As far as the non-waiver, I think I mentioned the general revenue. That one's a little bit different, where it's an IQ of 69 or below, or an autism diagnosis. With the GR program and the non-waiver for that autism diagnosis, that's the only program that there's not an IQ requirement for that one. And I believe also with class, that, but you could get more information from that phone number. That's based on the disability rather than the IQ. All righty. Next is the Medicaid waiver enrollment process. So this is kind of what happens. A lot of people on this list for a long time, and where you don't have, where I said you don't have to go through the process to see if you meet eligibility. And this is where this will comes in. So when your name does come up, someone from our enrollment department at LifePath would give you a call, or your LIDA, and let you know that you have been, your name has come up. We will send a letter, and you have 30 days to respond to that letter. If we don't get a response, we will try to call and try to find you. I know that's why it's also super important to keep up with us. If you move to another county, we can transfer that to another county. You don't lose your spot on the list if you stay within Texas. Once you make contact, we'll have there's initial meeting to review the waiver and the services offered at this time. And then at that time is when a schedule will be scheduled for a DID will be done, which is called the Determination of Intellectual Disability. This is when we go through the eligibility process. And then once we have that testing, we will review that with you and let you know that you qualified or an individual didn't qualify, and there is an appeals process for that. Then you would choose a provider for your services and an enrollment date, and services would get started. We will, the LIDA, LifePath for Collin County, would assign you a service coordinator, and that becomes your go-to person. They work with you to make sure all of the pieces of the puzzle are coming together, as far as your PTOT, speech, respite, whatever you choose for your services that are offered through that program. So also to keep in mind, you can be on multiple lists at one time. So you can be on all the lists, and then if your name comes up for Texas Home Living, you can definitely take that, accept that spot and stay on the other list. And then once, give me just a minute. Sorry about that. And then if your name comes up on another one, say you're on Texas Home Living, and then you get notified that you've gotten an HCS slot, you will review that with an enrollment specialist, and you can decide which waiver program is best for you and your family. I've seen it both ways. I've seen where people stay where they are, or they'll leave and go to another one. The only thing is you can't be in two at one time. You have to choose one of the waiver programs, but you definitely want to get on all the lists, and you don't have to be on just one. The next slide, I think, is where we have the different phone numbers you can see for Collin County, and then there's Metro Care, Denton County, Lakes Regional Community Center, and Texoma are just some of the LIDAs in the area. You can always reach out to me, and I can get you in contact with the LIDA where you reside in your community, because all of the services come in your community, in your county where you live. So I know that is a lot of information that I've thrown at you about the waiver programs and the non-waiver. So if there's any questions or anything I can help with, be more than happy to answer that for you guys. It is definitely a lot of information and can be very confusing information.
It is, it is. So Ashley, we do have one question. What is the Star Plus HBCS waiver, and how do we get on that one?
Okay, there is a phone number, I believe, for the Star Plus waiver. The best way for me to describe the Star Plus waiver, it is MDCP, Medically Dependent Children's Program, is for children age birth to 22. And the Star Plus waiver is more, it's kind of its counterpart for adults with high medical needs. And I believe there should be a phone number for that one. Yes, that's the contact number. Is 1-888-337-6377. It's on this with the Medicaid waiver programs.
And I will send a PDF of these slides to all of the people that are here today. I will use the email that you registered with. So you will get a copy of these slides so that you'll have all of that contact information. Okay, we have another question. Is the Metro Care number the best contact to discuss with someone which programs or waivers we are eligible to apply for Dallas County residents?
Yes, Metro Care is Dallas County. And they should have the same, my counterpart there, that kind of that front door triage. And that's where you'll spend a good time talking with someone that will talk to you about all the waiver programs, what lists are good for you, what lists are good to get on. And as far as waiver, Medicaid, the CFC, if you have Medicaid, then there are some things we can do right now. There are some things we can do right now in addition to getting on those waiting lists.
Waiver lists for people with learning disabilities is one of the questions that we have.
Not to my knowledge. Now, all of the waiver lists have the IQ requirements, which are that IQ of 69 or below, IQ of 75 or below with a related condition. I do not believe learning disability is a related condition. The state identifies, there's lots of related conditions that would qualify. I do not believe learning disability is one.
I see one question that is going to be for me, and that is about the webinar recording. And so I just want to let everyone know that yes, this webinar is being recorded today. We will have that posted on the Region 10 website. It takes about 7 to 10 business days for that to be made accessible and to be posted. But again, I will send a follow-up email to everyone that is here today, and I will include a link to where that will be posted as well. Okay, next question. Who do we connect for Kaufman and Van Zant County? Do you have that contact information?
I can get that.
I put it in the
Okay.
chat.
Okay,
Okay,
perfect.
I've got
Thank
a
you,
whole
Jim.
list. Thank you. Thank you. I don't have it with me.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, I see that now. I'm still behind. Okay, my child is currently on MDCP waiver. Does this automatically transition to the Star Plus waiver, or does her Medicaid fall off when she turns 21?
Very good question. And I would refer you back to MDCP for
I
that
have
question.
I have an answer for that.
Oh, perfect.
Um, Chances are that your child will qualify for Medicaid when they turn 18 through SSI, and then your NDCP will be billing that Medicaid for the services. And then when they transition to 21, there should be a transition process through your Medicaid provider to help you transition to adult services that will help with that transition process.
Okay. Ashley, here's another question from
Okay.
someone that joined late that just wanted to know what age is it appropriate to get on the waiver wait lists?
Right now, today.
0.
Any right now, call your little today. Any age can get on. And I do recommend, again, right now, the average time is about 17 years. And when we get notified that we have names, I've kind of monitor that and check with our enrollment department. And it is pretty consistent still at 17 years. For HCS, Home and Community Services. Texas Home Living you might come up a year or two ahead of time, but HCS is still averaging about 17 years.
What about if someone was denied of Medicaid before?
Denied through a waiver, or they were just denied, they just applied?
It just says that. So if this is your question, this may be one that you want to reach out to Ashley separately through some of these contact numbers that are here to get additional clarification for that question.
I think
So we're gonna go ahead.
I think I might know the answer to this.
Okay.
So I'm suspecting that he applied for Medicaid without a waiver. Medicaid is based on the income levels of the family until the child turns 18. And then at that point, when the child is 18, they are an adult, then you would apply for services and benefits based on the adult level of income at that point.
Okay. Um, Ashley, the next question is about repeating the waivers that are autism diagnosis specific. But before you answer that question, I'm gonna do a couple of other things really quick to address some of the other things that are here. Dallas County contact is going to be MetroCare. It's going to be this number and this contact information that's right there on the screen. I see Rockwall County. Jim, do you know that
I
contact
think
information by chance?
I think it's also Lakes Regional.
I
Okay.
think you're right. I think it is Lakes Regional.
Okay, now we'll do the autism one, and then we'll probably only have time for one more question before we wrap up today. But Ashley, you want to go ahead and cover that one?
Yes, so that was about an autism diagnosis.
Yes, are there
Okay.
waiver programs that are specific to autism diagnoses?
There are not waiver programs specific to that. Now, autism is a related condition, so an individual can have a little bit higher IQ for HCS or Texas Home Living. The requirements are an IQ of 69 or below, or 75 or below with a related condition. So there's a little bit of leeway there. Now, the non-waiver general revenue, where there's very limited funding, that program is an IQ of 69 or below, or an autism diagnosis without an IQ requirement. So that's that non-waiver program through general revenue. And that has very limited funding as compared to the waiver programs. It has funding for just that service coordinator, kind of a case manager to link to resources to advocate. And then it has limited funding for respite, so the caregiver can get a break, and for day hab when an individual transitions out of school.
Thank you. Okay, we'll do one
Absolutely.
more. And then I know we have a lot of questions that we weren't able to get to. Jim, maybe you can put the information in there for SpedTex and PRN again. And then again, we'll make sure that we send out the slide deck to everyone that's here so that you have all of this contact information so that you can reach out with your additional questions, because I do know this is an area where there are a lot of questions that come up, and it is something that is pretty complicated. So our last question, Ashley, do you know if there are support staff available that can help families to apply for SSI?
Yes, we do have at least LifePath. There are benefit specialists that can help. And if you are not in Collin County, I would just direct you to your LIDA where you are and see. But Collin County LifePath does have benefit specialists. And that's part of that triage phone call that we'll talk and we'll go over all of the options, all of the different things we can try to get for you, get you on the waiting list. And if you need to, if you're interested in speaking to a benefit specialist about Medicaid and that whole process.
Fantastic.
Yes, and can't encourage enough. Please call if you have any questions or you want to talk through list and that. Reach out to your local authority, please.
Thank you so much, Ashley, for being here today. I know this is such important information,
Absolutely.
and we are so thankful you came today to share this. I'm going to ask Ashton to launch a quick poll for us that is going to help us to get some feedback from everyone that was here today. And then the other thing that I'm going to do is in the chat, I'm going to post a link that has some information about a statewide webinar that we have coming up on December 4th. This is about the Parent Directed Supplemental Services Grant, or PDSES. So if this is something that you are not familiar with or want to learn more about, please register for that webinar as well. And I want to just thank everyone again for being here.
Yeah, and I would like to answer the question for the 27-year-old. Contact your local LIDA, whatever county you're in, after this meeting. That is the best way to get moving forward. And if the individual's on his own, there are methods to help meet that individual's needs, but it is a very complicated, involved process, and they have to be connected to the local intellectual disability authority to help with that process. So call Ashley if you're in Collin County.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, we'll give everyone just a couple of minutes to answer those poll questions, and then we will go ahead and wrap up. Thank you again.